We'll get started. Hey everybody, Steve Cady here with Rianna and a whole bunch of friends from all around the world. So thank you all for being here and supporting Rianna. I got an email the other day from Diana Whitney saying, "Hey Steve, love this topic. It is so important." And uh, and what I would say about Rianna, you can see her bio. And that gives all her accomplishments and those kinds of things. But what I love about Rihanna is her ability to take a lot of complex ideas and build these cool frameworks and models and conceptual ways of thinking about things. I think, Rihanna, you have just a nice way of bringing a lot of information together in very user-friendly ways around a very what I would call important topic. That's a sensitive topic. That is a super hot topic for a lot of people. And so, Rihanna, we're just looking forward to having you share with us. And I'll turn it over to you and jump on in.
Thank you so much, Steve. Yeah, the topic for today is social power dynamics and use of self. And I would say, just building on what you said, Steve, that if social power dynamics is not a topic for you that's hot, that it needs to be. If it's not hot for you, I would understand why, because the social power dynamics that I want to talk about today, and I want to have us do some work around, are so embedded that unless we come to awareness around them, then we aren't aware, and we just don't think about those kinds of things very much. But they're present in every social interaction, including this one, among all of us. So I wanted to take some time to kind of lift them up, lift the topic up in relation to our use of self as practitioners. I'm just a little bit about me. I'm a graduate of a doctoral program that was a scholar practitioner program. It was focused on developing us as scholar practitioners. And basically everyone in the program, we didn't move through in cohorts because it was self-paced, but everyone in the program was at least a mid-career professional. So a lot of people were like me that came into the program wanting to study. See, the thing is, let me back up just a sec. I started doing OD in the middle of, now I'm going to date myself, but the middle of the 1980s. And I was kind of imitating what I had seen other senior practitioners do with interventions. And I loved the way that interventions worked as I experienced them with more senior practitioners. So I said to myself, I can do that. I did a lot of OJT. And every time, like Dick Beghart's third-party intervention design, I tried that. I adapted it so that it would be like a new manager assimilation process. And I did that with some engineering teams I was working with at the time. And it worked so beautifully and so powerfully. And I said to myself, I need to understand the why. Like, what's the theory behind this kind of thing? And that's why I finally went after a Ph.D. so I could do the academic learning and so forth. Today with you, I want to leverage the practitioner side of that equation of scholar practitioner. So what I have planned for us today is to start out with, Lisa, would you mind putting up the slide slide number 2? And this slide has to do with the flow for today. Number 2, can you do that?
Hold on.
Anyway, I'll tell you what it is. The flow for today is for us to do a mindfulness meditation and then debrief, have an activity and debrief it, and then do some conceptual, I'll share some conceptual framing about what we've just done, and we'll have a chance to talk about that, like, so what and now what? And then a little bit of closure and a segue to the after action questions that Steve and David and others ask. So that's the flow for today. And I'd like us to now go into a meditative place for about 5 minutes and do a little, you can just take the slides down, Lisa. Thank you. Just go into a mindful kind of state. Let yourself get into a comfortable position, whatever that is for you. You can turn off your camera if you like. I'll keep mine on in case you want to watch me. Lisa, if it's possible, could you take the slides down? Thanks so much. So, settling into your chairs, whatever you're sitting on, feel your body against the surfaces that it's touching. Feel the pull of gravity as your body touches the surfaces. Let your eyes be heavy. You can close them if you'd like to, or just go to soft focus. And tune into the sensations of your breathing. Just natural breathing for you. Can deepen it a little bit if you like. Fill your lungs. Relax on the out breath. And notice the sensation of the in-breath through your nostrils and the out-breath through your lips. Just notice. And we're just observing, accepting, and allowing. No judgment. Just letting everything be how it is. Notice what it's like to be in your body right now. Let your feet be in full contact with the earth. Simply allow whatever you notice. Just being mindful. No judgment. Noticing what is and letting it be. Staying with your breath. Imagine your heart opening and allow it to fill with the energy of compassion. Mindful of your body and your compassionate heart, and keeping your eyes closed or soft. Allow your awareness to expand to the space around your body. Sense the air around you and the objects around you, allowing them to be what they are. Nothing to do, nothing to judge. If your mind wanders, that's okay. Just return awareness to what is. Connected to your breath, your body, and your sense of the world around you. Let everything simply be and just breathe. Now a few moments of silence. And now allow this affirmation into your awareness. I am okay, right here and right now. I have everything I need, right here and right now. Let your attention travel back, becoming more and more aware of physical sensations. Rolling your shoulders, rolling fingers and toes, rotating ankles. Bringing this moment of awareness with you as you slowly and gently open your eyes and come back into social space. Namaste and welcome back. Anyone want to say a word of how you are right now?
I am ready and relaxed.
I'm relaxed too.
Feel completely in my
Nice.
body.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So Lisa, if you could put up slide 3, we're going to, thank you, Jay. We're going to move into an activity. And to do this activity, I'd like you to think of a time when you were an outsider and not by choice. The reason I put not by choice is because as ODC practitioners and educators, we kind of live at the boundary of whatever system we're working with. We have one foot in and one foot out. Sometimes we're completely out, and that's by choice. But this is a time, I want you to think of a time in your life, and it could be from childhood, adolescence, early adulthood, the present moment, whatever, when you knew you were an outsider of some social system. So it might be a pair of people, a group of people, a larger group, when you could really feel your outsiderness and it wasn't your choice to be outside. So think about that moment, that event, and in terms of what happened and who was present and how you felt, like what came up for you in terms of emotions, body sensations, possibly. And maybe you want to make a couple notes to yourself, because I'm going to invite you to talk about this experience with another person, one other person. So next slide, Lisa. We will be putting you into pairs, and just decide, you'll have a total of 10 minutes for this activity. Each person will have 5 minutes to be a speaker and 5 minutes to be a listener. So in the first few seconds, I'd like you just to decide, once you get into your room with your partner, decide who's going to be the speaker first. And speaker, when you're the speaker, it's up to you what you share about your outsider experience. You can just go by that little rubric of what happened and who was present and how you felt. However you want to do that, however you want to tell that story is just fine, and you control the dial on that. When you're the listener, bring your best listening presence. That means suspending judgment and just being fully present to the other person. And it's not a dialogue. It's not an interaction per se. You're creating space for the speaker to just come into and fully explore. Nonverbals are okay. You know, however you do that. So you'll have a total of 10 minutes, and at the 9-minute mark, Lisa will put in a 1-minute warning, and at the 5-minute mark, we'll come in with a message to shift speakers. Then we'll come out into large group and do a little bit of popcorn sharing. Just create some space for some sharing. And by the way, when we're back in large group, I won't be asking you to share your stories or the details of your stories, but the rest of the group would like to hear any feelings or emotions or body sensations that got named. So be aware as those get named and just kind of make a mental note or a note to yourself in your journal, whatever you have with you.
Rianna,
Okay,
you
Lisa,
said
we
this
can
is not
put-
a dialogue. Are questions okay? Okay.
Prefer you not to ask questions. Just let the person just tell their story the way they want to. If the speaker needs it, you might remind them that it's like what happened, who was present, without violating confidentiality, of course. And maybe a question like, what did you feel? But keep the focus on them. Okay? All right, Lisa, into pairs.
Thank you.
Yep. Are we starting the timer? I have 11:30 my time.
Yep. That works. Yeah. So
Can you take the slide down, Lisa? I can only see the slide. Great.
here
Thank
we
you.
go. And we have everybody is in a room. It's great. Yeah. So I love that question, a time being an outsider. I had another question I've used recently, a time when you did not feel seen or heard, you know?
I like that one too.
And that's a very powerful question to ask people,
Yes.
you know?
Yes, it reminds me that one of the clients I worked with up until the ban on DEI was a small manufacturing outfit in Texas. So it was all like senior middle managers and junior execs, that kind of thing. And one of the white men in that group at some point in the conversation said, I think most people just want to be seen and heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. And it really is good. So tell me a little bit about how you set the opening up to connect into this conversation. Tell me a little bit about that they're having.
Is it about something I said or didn't say? I'm trying to
Just
remember what I said.
how you're opening, the setting up to have the grounding experience flowing into this conversation. Talk a little bit about your thinking around doing those two and how they connect, how it helps.
Well, the mindfulness meditation, of course, and I didn't say all this because I'm so mindful of now trying to finish by noon or so. Is about getting ourselves grounded, of course, and thinking back to what Richard Boyatzis has shared. He was talking at one point about the neuroscience of stress and how to mediate stress, and one of the things was meditation.
Right.
Using meditation to get people kind of fully present and deal with any stress that they may be feeling in the moment.
Right on. Yeah. And I think that
And then the outsider experience is by definition stressful if it's not a situation by choice where you've said, I want to be outside in this situation, to be an observer, whatever.
right. Hi, Ulf.
I'm sorry I'm joining late, and I don't even see myself. I just rushed into the Zoom session here. Thanks for admitting me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. Yeah, so are you able to see us?
Yes, I see you. I just, I don't know. I usually have turned off the self view. I just, something
Oh,
is wrong
gotcha.
with my screen
Yeah,
setup here.
yeah,
Something is totally confusing at the moment. But I
uh,
am here.
okay, yeah. Well, we could ask you a question while we're sitting here, which would kind of have you jump in if you're open to a question.
Okay. Let me have a
Um,
cup of tea to prepare
yeah,
for being
yeah, and you can
on the
share your
spot here. Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Everybody's in groups, and the question that they're answering is, uh, tell us about a time when you felt like an outsider and it wasn't your choice.
And it was not my choice.
Correct. Can you
Uh,
tell us about that? Can you think of a moment when that you could share with us?
Actually, it's part of my upbringing, I guess, like family heritage in ways. Like also my parents, I think, felt like outsiders, and I've taken that pattern on. Um, yeah, so it's vast stretches of my life. So interesting would be the opposite question, like where do I feel like belonging? This is very personal. I mean, I totally opened up here in front of you guys, but
Yeah.
it's like this. So is Yeah, this, I mean, the question of belonging versus, of course, there's also joy in feeling separate, right? Like there's something about being special and everything. So there are reasons why my system probably also is choosing or creating these states of feeling as if I was not belonging.
So
Uh,
I'm curious to know more
yeah.
about this, where you said most of your life is you have most of your life is in your, I think you said heritage. I think your
Well,
family.
yeah, I'm not a native American speaker, but like lineage or lineage, I think is the word. Like I mean,
Yeah. Yes.
my
Uh-huh.
parents definitely through their biographies have had influences that made them feel outsiders. So kind of our family, like the family I grew up in, definitely also has traits of not belonging, like in general. Even though my father has been a super highly respected person in his professional life and so on, right? Like we haven't been like living in the forest, not at all. But it's this sensation of somehow being different that I just grew into when I grew up, and I've taken this on. Plus, I guess educational patterns also play a role, right?
Right. Right.
So I have three children. There are many ways you can make your children feel outcast. So,
Right.
uh, of course, I try to avoid that as a father, but now having the awareness. But yeah. Does
Thank
that
you
make
for
sense?
sharing that off.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
How about
For
you?
me, I think what comes to mind for me, Ulf, is like when I was younger, I loved sports, but I was raised by a single father. And as a result, and I was the oldest, I didn't have the luxury of playing sports, but I was very athletic, and all the coaches wanted me to play every
Hmm.
sport. So I played a lot of different sports, but I could never really stay long in them because I had to take care of family. And as the
Wow.
sports got, and so I had all my friends were athletes. So I never felt, inside, and it wasn't my choice because I wasn't allowed to participate in the activities that allowed me to be
Oh,
in with
oh,
all of
wow.
them, you know?
Yeah, this is wow. Yeah, I hear you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, my story probably is more privileged. Like I've been super excellent at school, for instance, at high school, and like one of the outstanding students, just because it was easy for me to kind of learn, I guess, at the time, and this always put me aside. So I totally privileged kind of outside position, and I'm humbled by your sharing of like having to just through having to take care of others, just maybe and not being in a position to join just naturally as others. Yeah.
Right, right,
I just felt people around me like they found me strange or special, and but yeah, which probably I was to some extent, but also I guess I wasn't in many ways. I just felt like this is a position I could easily take.
right.
But you
Wow.
didn't have a choice. Like you really, I mean, there was like I'm not just in hearing you, I reflect like I might have had a choice, as opposed to probably you probably really were just kind of in an environment that asked you to serve at an age where you also could have just played with others.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. It was
So
tough
what's your,
because I was always looking for a place where I could belong.
yeah,
And
yeah.
now yeah.
And then when you had the
What
freedoms, I guess
were
later,
you,
sorry.
Steve and Alf, were either of you aware of any emotions or body sensations you had to self-manage around as you were in your outsider experiences?
I don't think that at the time in my youth I had access to an awareness of physical or body kind of like this is my like the last 15 years gave me access in my life to really notice, oh wow, my shoulders are like this, or my chest is sunken, or whatever, and I fear something. Yeah, I mean, of course, I noticed fear when I was younger, but like this, you ask for the physical sensation, and this is something I really had to learn much later. Just because, I mean, but this wasn't part of my context. Like nobody spoke about physical sensations at the time beyond pain and hunger, I guess. Yeah. So what you speak to, like noticing how my body is embodying sensations is something that's I learned much later.
Yeah, for me it was a lot of I think I would have an upset stomach a lot sometimes and I would be sometimes self-conscious and anxious, when I
Mm-hmm.
And
was
you
Yeah.
seen,
noticed,
when I was seen. So I dealt with a lot of that, and earlier in my life about being seen and what it was like, and this
hmm,
strong longing and need, just a longing to be connected, you know.
Longing. Yeah. Wow.
yeah, I hear
Longing
you.
to
I,
feel
I just
connected.
smoked actually. I just started smoking very early to suppress all that. And Stephen, thank you for sharing. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
So we've had Ulf has joined us, which is wonderful. And while you all were in your dyads, Ulf and Steve have been sharing a bit around their outsider experiences, which is great. Just a minute here in large group.
What the purpose of the
So,
recording is.
yep.
They're deleted after.
So let's see. Make sure you got everybody muted.
Oh, okay. So I wonder if you all would just put into chat or say out loud into the space, naming any emotions, feelings, body sensations that you may have shared that may have come up with you when you shared your outsider stories with each other. So chat or voice, either one or both. Lack of usefulness, exclusivity versus understanding, bemusement. And Anka, you had your hand up? Do you want to just speak it into the room?
It was very interesting. I really got to meet like one person deeply because usually it's more about the speaker in this session. And now I got to really meet one of the participants.
And yeah, we've gotten a bunch in chat. That's great. Let me switch over. So yeah, understanding an urge to join, wish I could join. A longing to smoke or to suppress any unpleasant feeling, rejection, abandonment, and pain. Yeah, any others that want to come into the room? Okay, all right. Well, this is an activity that in one way, shape, or form I've conducted with, I don't even know how many different groups in different client systems, mostly corporate, but a lot of government work over the last umpty years. So I've collected, this exercise always affects me, and I've collected the responses from that people shared after their outsider experiences in those groups, and just sort of condense them into one list. So Lisa, I'm wondering if you could put that slide up. That would be slide number 7. the outsider experience. These are things that people frequently name. I think angry, hurt, sad, and rage came up virtually every time I ever facilitated this exercise for a group. You can just look at those there, and if you want to, like there were a couple mentioned, Steve and Ulf, that you mentioned while we were listening, that maybe you want to share into the larger group. Body sensations.
Rianna, did you want me to share? Is that what you were asking?
There were a couple of body sensations that came up when you and Ulf were talking, and
Yeah.
I would rather you gave voice than I did.
Yeah, no,
I
not.
don't want to out you. If you don't
I
want
just
to,
said I
that's
had.
fine.
Yeah. No, fine. I was just trying to make sure I heard you. So interestingly for me, I felt a knot in my stomach a
Uh-huh.
lot, and
Yeah.
anxiety, and it kind of and then when I was seen, I felt anxiety. So it was kind of a combination
Hmm.
of those two things, and a longingness.
A longing. Yeah. Longing and yearning.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. What's it like for folks to read this list? Do you resonate to it? Does it make you feel a certain way? Let's just hear if you have any reactions to it. For me, it feels familiar. I certainly had my share of outsider experiences in life.
Yeah. Boreana had
So-
something she wanted to share.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Who is it?
Boreana?
Yeah, if that's okay.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, seeing this list, what I notice is of understandingly, this is unpleasant feeling, like unpleasant experience. But what I've noticed while sharing with Malik was that my story, I've noticed that I have moved and I'm already in a different place thinking about that situation in the past. So the only unpleasant, I would say, feeling was this sadness that this happened, like mourning that this happened. But I'm not angry or hurt anymore. And I wonder whether we could, and how this shift happens after this exercise. I'm curious.
That is a wonderful question, and it kind of anticipates where we'll be going for the last few minutes of the session. Lisa, so let's move on. Lisa, if you could take this down and show, think of a time when you were an insider. That would be slide number 5. And same questions. So you got to be inside in this event. And again, from any time in life, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, early adult, older, whatever, what happened, who was present, and how did you feel? And then we'll put you back in for, we'll put you back into your groups for, let's do 8 minutes this time. Okay, Lisa, can you put them back in?
Now, Ulf, I've kept you here because you wouldn't have a partner. So
No, it's good.
you're just part of our group. Yeah, I was going to say.
my
Thank you.
partner.
There you go. Perfect.
Thank you, Stephen, for picking me up here. I feel like
Yeah.
more like an insider now, having joined late.
It's all
It's
good.
lovely.
Can you take the slide down, Lisa? Thank you. Yeah, so I invite the two of you, if you want to share around insider experiences, that would be great.
So
What
that was
happened? Who was involved? How did you feel?
the insider experience?
Yeah. Have you ever been an insider, Steve, Katie?
Yeah. For me, the most recent one is, which is not really recent, but relatively, um, being a full professor at the university that I'm at.
Hmm.
It takes a while to get there. And so,
Yeah.
but I've been there for a few years. I've been just witnessing that we as an insider group have never met in the almost
Hmm.
30 years I've been at the university. So I have taken upon myself to talk to each and every full professor that I can talk with that has time in our college of business and asking them what about that and what they would like if we could come together as a community.
Hmm.
And so how I guess addressed being an insider is I wanted to help people to feel more connected, within the
Hmm.
group and how we can better connect to all the faculty. A lot of them talked about mentoring others, junior faculty, connecting, building a more connected college because we're the more senior faculty. So and how I
Hmm.
feel about it is a little anxious because I don't know if anybody will show up for our first meeting.
Hmm.
I feel proud and anticipatory, and I love creating connection. Like I just do that. That's just what I do. So
Hmm.
I think out of that being outsider early in my life, it's caused me to be big on creating insider, bringing everybody in. So
Hmm.
that's sort of how I've kind of dealt with that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And Lisa, we're
I,
doing a 4-minute break this time. You got that? Okay. Thanks.
I join in seeing how my pattern has always been feeling kind of so frequently feeling like an outsider to indeed also help others build connection and this way also in many cases belong. Like my work is as a facilitator, so I convene people just professionally and design workshops and design programs to build connection between people in organizations. So I've made this a habit, and I feel I belong. Like while I'm facilitating, of course, I have a role that sets me aside a little bit, and yet I feel like I belong. So this is one of the patterns I see just in resonance to what you shared, Steve.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's more through uh, feeling like-minded. So there is a bunch of people with whom I feel very like-minded, and this has grown over time. Usually, it's around like community in like out of hosting facilitation, where there are circles and we meet, and this is where I grew into just really taking my seat and feeling a natural part of the community. It's places where, and what I might add is like, I realized there are places where I believe what the story I tell myself is I need to pretend to be somebody else. At least in order to conform, I need to conform, to put it this way, not like pretend to be somebody, to conform. And there are places where I feel like it's like I'm welcome as I am. And this is in particular like my the training groups I was part and I have been part in, and some of them there are people kind of meetings since those like Gestalt education, my coach education, nonviolent communications. Like it's these circles where it's so easy for me to belong, just because I feel like I am wanted the way I am, and the less I hold back and the less I kind of pretend or whatever, the more easy it is to feel part of to belong. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just Ulf, it's so interesting to think about how uh privilege, as you called it, I would call it, uh, uh, I always think that even those that are privileged are not always as privileged as we think, and right. And I
Mm.
think you kind of bring it up because you feel as privileged. You're an insider and an outsider at the same time. You're not sure, I can hear that, for you. You struggle with both of those sides of the coin.
Yeah, it's still it's probably one of it's one of the places I'm still at my age looking to, like what is my sense of belonging and my yeah, and where are the places? And yeah, and this definitely roots deep in childhood. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then it's such a joy to feel like, and it really, for me, it is mainly about like feeling like, okay, there's no, people are not pretending. There is a degree of vulnerability, like as usual right now, Stephen. I mean, you give me a sensation of belonging in some way, just because you open up and you share your vulnerability, and you offer an invitation to just be there and be present, as opposed to just kind of telling each other nice stories. And I so yeah, I enjoy
That's good.
this sensation of belonging, and
I wish
I
you
wonder
lived
if
in my
there's
It's
neighborhood. We would
amazing
have great
how,
coffee.
yeah. So do I actually. Where do you live? I've got no idea. Somewhere in the
Uh,
States, I guess. There,
I'm in Ohio. Yeah.
Ohio. Oh yeah, really? Okay.
And you?
I'm in Berlin, Germany.
Okay.
But I was in Ohio. I worked at Procter and Gamble in the 90s for 6 years, and I frequently went to the headquarters in downtown Cincinnati.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did some consulting work for them too, in the 80s,
In the 80s, really?
early
Did you?
90s. Yeah, early 90s actually, with the finance team, finance VP and his staff and so forth. Yeah. Hmm.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I was in. I began in consumer services, like kind of helping them regionalize and globalize, like running projects to unify operations here and people's mindset in particular. This was totally my thing, like really convening people to feel like a union as opposed to feeling separate. Uh,
Yeah.
and then this shifted into kind of
Yes, and
P&G's global e-commerce operations. And again, having kind of
you
country.
and
This was.
you and Steve both talked about wanting to foster connection. You know, from your insider status, wanting to foster connection among others,
Among
give
others,
that
yeah.
gift to others. Yeah,
Mhm.
very nice. Are we? We're close to the 1 minute, aren't we, Lisa?
Mhm.
Great.
People will be back here in
I
just a second.
appreciate so much what you both shared. I heard joy, a sense of belonging, and wanting to. It's like Erickson talked about in what is it, our 6th or 7th stage of Asian stage of development, wanting to give back.
Mm.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. As people are coming back, just opening the space now for not talking about the stories per se, but naming any feelings, emotions, or body sensations that came into your that your speaker shared in this last session around the insider experience, and either into chat or saying them out loud. Thank you, Anna. Yeah, I know a lot of people are leaving at the noon time boundary. And yeah, talked about being seen and valued. Yeah, feeling valued, that sense of feeling valued, really nice. Anyone else? Connected, that sense of connection. Yeah. Yes. As opposed to isolated and disconnected. Yeah. Feeling I can show up as I am, vulnerable, no pretense. Very nice. Thank you so much. Yeah. So Lisa, let's take a look at that slide number 8, the insider experience. Now again, in facilitating this activity with umpty-ump client groups, these were the kinds of things that people typically talked about. Just like it made me happy, you know, I felt fabulous. I couldn't wait to share it with others, and so forth. And some people you see guilty there. Some people, like these were typically shared in learning labs that had to do with undoing white supremacy, and dealing with internalized racism and that kind of thing. So people who knew they were in the insider group culturally in that space, a lot of white folks like me, talked about feeling, geez, I'm aware of how much insider status I have, how much of an insider I am, how much systemic advantage I have as a white person in white supremacy and so forth. And some people even talked about, could this really be happening to me, that I get to be here on this stage? You know, I'm being awarded the Nobel Prize. That didn't happen, but that's what just popped into my head. Yeah, any reactions seeing this? Does this feel familiar given what your own sharing was like and with your partner? Okay, we'll move on. Let's see, let's move to the conceptual framing. Number 9, Lisa. So we're going to talk about social power dynamics and use of self. I have a couple of definitions or descriptions that I want to share with you. And then the main theory underlying insider-outsider power dynamics is called stratification theory and then field theory. So let's look at the next slide, slide 10, Lisa. Yeah. So social power dynamics, basically, and I mean, there's tons written about this. You can Google social power dynamics and get all kinds of references and really, really great essays describing what different thinkers have to say about that. One thing that doesn't get said is is about equity, that you actually can have equitable power dynamics where both people in the dyad or all people in the group or all people in the organization of some kind have roughly equal measures or quantums of social power, meaning the ability to influence others and influence their behavior and so forth, where there can be structural equity, for example. Most people who write about social power dynamics are talking about, yes, thank you, Ken, absolutely. Most people, when they talk about social power dynamics, they're thinking in terms of a hierarchy where the measures of power are different depending on how far up or how far down the ladder you are, thinking in an organizational context and so forth. Another way of thinking of social power dynamics is in terms of various dimensions of social identity difference. So the big ones, like Angela Davis said so many years ago now, race, gender, and class. Now we think about race, of course, and then sex is differentiated from gender in the contemporary moment as different genders are sorting themselves out. Sex being male, female, intersex, and then sexual orientation, class, religion, national origin, whether or not you're a native speaker of the country that you're living in or the company that you're working in, and on and on and on. There's virtually a limitless number of social group identity differences. And then within that, of course, as individuals who live in these various systems, white supremacy is a system, patriarchy is a system, heterosexuality is a system, even to take it to kind of an everyday level, and some of you might be able to relate to this, whether you're right-handed or you're left-handed. I remember being in elementary school and learning to print first and then to write cursive, and watching how a couple of classmates just struggled with who were left-hand dominant, who just struggled to write in a way that was not so messy, and that it was painful the way they had to contort their hands and even their bodies in order to learn printing and the alphabet and cursive and all of that in English in the schools I went to. Well, the world is set up by right-handed people, because right-handed people, and I'm one, this is another source of my cultural dominance, we're the ones who kind of set up the world, including how language was going to be written, from the left side of the page to the right side of the page, and so on and so forth. But being right-handed and dominant in that respect, I don't think about it. I'm like the norm. So I don't think about having cultural dominance in that space very much. Well, that holds true whatever dimension of difference we're talking about. And what does it take to come to awareness about our insider status on any given dimension of diversity? If you imagine a line drawn horizontally across a page, and you intersect that line with all of the different social identity groups and dimensions of difference that you can think of, and then decide which ones am I above the line because I have insider status, and which ones am I below the line because I'm culturally subordinated. You can begin to get a sense of your own unique intersectionality, and where are the areas where you struggle, and where are the areas where, because you're dominant, you don't have to think about things too much. A note about organization development and change, thinking about Kurt Lewin and the people who were his friends, colleagues, students, and so forth in the early days, the late 40s, early 50s, when NTL Institute was founded. The movement of OD is generally toward greater equity and a loosening of hierarchy, a loosening of chain of command, unless it's the type of organization where chain of command is really critical. I always think of my local fire department. I live in a small town, about 10,000 people, and it's really, I donate to the fire department and the police department. It's very clear that they have a really clear hierarchy, and they're comfortable within that because the nature of the work calls for it. And there's other times when hierarchy is less necessary. I think OD, it tries to, like in Jay Lorsch's the old Jay Lorsch intervention around role and responsibility charting, it doesn't try to loosen the bonds of hierarchy. It tries to clarify what the roles and responsibilities are so that they can work more effectively. But then there are other interventions that really try to loosen the hierarchy and flatten it a bit. Probably a really good example of that would be open space technology. But in general, this whole focus on participation, where every voice counts, and sharing power rather than hoarding power is, I think, at the heart of OD. In terms of social group identity, all of our various identities influence our interactions in multiple directions. Could we have the slide on, let's see, it would be number 10, Lisa. I wanted to just give a couple of definitions, one of social power dynamics and one of use of self. These are things that have been written about. Is that number 10? No, it's 11. Did we have one on those two definitions of social power dynamics and use of self? Maybe they're not. Yeah, okay, I guess we don't. Okay, so let's do use of self first. No, that's what I want to use for the closure. Lisa, can we go back to number 10? Okay, folks, I'm sorry. Somehow or other, communication mix-up or whatever. But let me see if I have that written in a text. I don't think I'll send it out separately. Yeah. Let's go to number 12 and put people back into their with their dyad partners. So
Rianna, we have to wrap up in about 4 minutes.
Okay, then this is the way I'd like to wrap up. I'd like to have people get back with their dyad partner and just take a few minutes to share one of these. Either one thing I appreciated about your story, or I was deeply impacted when, or the impact you had on me was, or what I especially appreciate about you. And we'll just do 3 minutes there and then we'll end it, Steve, okay?
Sounds great.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so frustrated about those tech issues that I had at the
Yeah.
beginning and how much time it cost. I feel like I've delivered an incomplete experience for people.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Hi,
I
David.
really believe the experience that people have is a complete experience in that moment. You know, it really is. I don't think the only way to know that it wasn't a complete experience is to know that it wasn't complete for you. You know?
It wasn't all of what I had intended. I really wanted more
Yeah.
time for reflection in a large
Right.
group, but oh well.
Yeah, but I think it was quite, it was good. I think people felt connected. I don't think it felt crammed. I think good content was brought in, and I think everybody's in a good place. You know, I think so. I think it's fine, and we'll manage wrapping up as well. And but Ulf and I have to keep our friendship going here today. So
Yes,
Yes.
we need to have closure. So what is the question for Ulf and I to discuss here? What did you say?
Well, it's either to share an appreciation of the other person or how they impacted you, how their story impacted you, something that really stands out.
Yeah. I'll just say I appreciated Ulf enough that I was saying, hey man, we have to go. I would love to have a coffee because we could just keep on talking. And I like how you acknowledge a person's what they shared. You do a really nice job of affirming where a person's coming from, at least where I was coming from.
Well, this was easy because I mean I'm so grateful how you just kind of pulled me into the conversation here and invited candor and then sharing. And I was I take with me the question of privilege because you just showed me two sides of it, and I have thought a lot about privilege, but this was something I feel regarding the difference also in youth, and yeah, and I wish I would have a chance to come to Cincinnati and or whenever you come to Berlin, feel invited to. Actually, beer is fine as well. So
Right on.
to
That's
meet. I
so
mean,
sweet.
yeah, this has been a fantastic start in my late joining here. And I say hi to Theo. I don't know if he's here, but I've met him before, and
Yeah, he was here.
uh,
He's a little under the weather. He's not feeling so well, so I think he stepped away. But he
yeah.
was here for a little while, so he was here for part of it.
But maybe we can have a conversation, Steve,
I,
at some point and just kind of share more kind of things that are between us. I don't know, in terms of shared interests or something.
can
Yeah,
I
I
come
welcome
and
that.
facilitate it? Because
Yeah.
I have to say I really enjoyed being an observer, witnessing the two of you connecting and impacting each other. It was
Yeah.
clear that by sharing and being vulnerable, you created a connection. You know, it was just lovely to
Mm.
get to witness that.
Yeah, so Ulf, just you have my email and all the stuff. You can send me a little note and just say, "Hey, let's get together and we'll grab we'll see if we can do a beer with our time difference. I'd have to have a lunch beer. So I think I'll have lunch and
Yeah, no.
yeah.
I I sent you a private message just with a cup of coffee. Just it's easier. A cup
Yeah.
of coffee probably even works around around the day 24/7. Even if it's decaf, then it's
Yeah.
and
Right
then
on.
tea it's for some. I don't know. Yeah, yeah.
It's
I'll send
lovely
you
to watch
an
two men
email.
connecting.
Yeah, this is what this is not so common to have men connecting so quickly. And really, Stephen, I totally attribute this to your way of pulling me into the conversation in my embarrassment of my being late. And it's sometimes I tend to believe it's easier kind of between either men and women or potentially women and women. We men often tend to, I don't know, compete or have status and something. I don't know. And this was a
Yeah.
very equity-based, vulnerable conversation very quickly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Steve, FYI, I prepared a slide that I think Lisa is going to be able to project on the screen that kind of helps me with answering yours and David's questions. I've been writing down your questions, the two of you, since we first started in September, and listening to what other people have had to say, you know. So I prepared a slide, and maybe that would facilitate our sharing.
Sure. The only thing is that we've totally changed all the questions different for you.
Of course you have.
There's a World Series baseball game going on, so we just decided to be in the spirit of the curveball.
Oh, I see. It
Yeah.
felt like one of those dropped balls, you know.
Yeah,
Like
sinker,
dropped
a sinker.
like
Yeah, they
a
call them
sinker,
sinkers.
yeah, just like 4 inches before the batter comes across
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah, or a knuckleball. It goes everywhere. So when you bring everybody back in, and we'll just go ahead and wrap up, and then we'll go through our questions, and Lisa can pull up the slide, and we can have our nice conversation to wrap up.
Okay.
So is
Everyone,
everybody here, Lisa?
yes.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. How do you want to wrap up and before we transition, Rianna? How do you want to end this
Hey,
part?
it's been great, everybody. I'm so glad those of you who could stay did, and gosh, I wish I could do it over with the tech.
Yeah, it's all right. It's totally all right. So, yeah. So, Lisa, why don't you bring David and I in, and we're gonna pop into some questions. You can share the screen too, and Rianna, our first question, and for all of you that are here for the first time today, we wrap up with what we call the ODC deep dive. We're going into some foundational questions. We're a part of a group that's looking at professionalizing the field. And part of that is exploring the foundations at a very beginning level, a very rudimentary level, if you will. And so, Rianna, how would you describe OD&C, Organization Development and Change, today, and how has it shifted for you over time?
I sometimes wonder if it has moved into being, for a lot of people, probably not everyone, but if it has moved into being more of a transactional kind of process than a transformational one. I feel like when I first started getting involved in it in the mid-'80s, there was a lot of focus on transformational OD and transformational learning. And somehow it feels to me like the world has kind of shifted in the direction of being kind of transactional. And I guess there's probably ways in which that's like a natural cycle and maybe necessary. I tend to still work when I have the opportunity to work from the old ways of doing OD, which blends human development and organization development. You know, I was looking at one of the old books that I have. This is a text that was written by Bob Tannenbaum, Newt Margulies, Fred Masaryk, and Associates way back in the early '80s. I don't know if I can get it up here. Probably not. Okay.
Your blur is segmented out. Yeah, your background is.
Yeah. And they blended the title of it is Human Systems Development, and they were all OD people, as well as, I'll tell you one thing. I think back in the day, whenever that was, I think there was a more effective blending of human development and organization development, and there was a recognition of the role that the individual human being plays in helping a system to transform. Now, in the circles I move in, and probably for the last 10 or 12 years, it seems to me there's been an overemphasis or an overvaluing, a valorizing of whole systems change. I'm not saying that that's not important. I think it's absolutely, totally important. And what's the role of the individual within that? For me, it's a both and, and every level of system in between. But it seems to me there's just been like this glamorizing of, well, I do whole systems work. Okay, yeah, and what happens to the individuals who are within that system? Now, this is just like my sense, my opinion, not research, not validated, but yeah, that's my answer to that question.
And you're sticking to it.
For the moment.
Yeah, for the moment. No, I think your definition, I think, is really your preferred definition versus where you see the field kind of challenged right now. And I think that
That's true.
transactional versus transformational challenge, I think a lot of people would say that's the project management orientation, very task orientation, moving out of the human-centered side of things. So I hear that.
And away from process, and away from process.
Right. Processes and
Yeah.
techniques and so forth. Yeah.
Mhm.
What sets ODC apart from other disciplines like HR and IO psychology and talent or training and development? What sets it apart in your opinion?
There's an openness. It's an open-ended heuristic kind of discipline or process. So you don't know what the outcome is going to be. You engage people, all the moving parts, all the change agents in a complex system. You engage all of them in a process and you trust that the process is going to work. And there's something about the way human beings are with each other. If you set up the right container, like I feel we did in my session just now, of inviting people to share from their own experience of either being outside the margin or inside the margin, and these amazing connections get created. But you can't guarantee the outcome. It's because it's complexity. It's complexity. So there's no guarantee of outcome. Whereas and I did some time in HR, traditional HR in the 80s, where the outcomes are defined and you're clear about what you're aiming toward. In OD, it's more, we have a vision of a preferred future, like Lewin talked about, and then we engage all of the different parts of the system and the stakeholders in a process that may well get us to where we want to go, but we don't know exactly what that's going to look like. We can have a vision of it, but what we create might turn out to be something different and better, that it's hard to anticipate ahead of time.
Cool. David's got a really important question to ask you. It's probably, more important than any other question that could ever be asked.
He's stroking you, David.
Setting me up. These are our questions. Remember. So as you look at the history of the field, historically and now, who are the key historical leaders and thinkers whose work anchors the field?
So would you throw up that slide for me, Lisa? I thought a lot about this, David, because it's actually one of my favorite questions out of the ones that you and Steve created.
Give me just a minute and I'll get it up there for you, Rianna.
Yeah. There's a lot of the people, my colleagues who've done these presentations since the beginning of September, every week, have named, of course, Kurt Lewin. No one can argue with that. Ed Schein gets named a lot. I added some people in the field of OD and also a field that I think is corollary to OD, which is interpersonal relations and family systems stuff. So in addition to those luminaries, I added, for example, Bob Tannenbaum, who was a brilliant theorist and writer, but also was just an incredible practitioner in terms of creating space for people to come in and make connections and grow and learn and so forth. I also added Chris Argyris and Don Schoen, who were at MIT with Ed Schein and have, they wrote very powerfully about OD. I added Virginia Satir and Eric Byrne because they were the founders of an old school of thought called transactional analysis, which I think is still a brilliant way of understanding human and interpersonal relations and dynamics and that kind of thing. I also added Murray Bowen, who was the original conceptualizer of family systems theory. There's a way that Murray Bowen and others have identified dynamics that go on in family systems that are totally apropos to organizations that we work with. So let's see. Okay, over to up there in the upper right-hand corner, it was one of probably my original mentor, Chuck Phillips, and he learned from Herb Shepard, Bob Tannenbaum, Dick Beckhard, Warren Bennis, Brendan Reddy. Brendan Reddy, who was in Cincinnati, by the way, maybe some of you would have known him. He was the author of Process Consulting. Was he the author? Maybe Chris Argyris was, but Brendan kind of took it to a practitioner level and made it accessible, differentiated it from facilitation. And I think his work was brilliant. We lost him some years ago to a cancer, I believe. Anyway, you'll see other names there who I think had great influence on the field. Edie and Charlie Seashore, Khalil Jameson, who was in Cincinnati, Dick Beckhard. Dick wrote a lot of, but I mentioned one of his intervention models earlier that really had huge influence on me was the third-party consultation model. It is so useful in helping two different groups, work through their perceptions of each other and take their projections back and find a middle ground. And, I'm not being very articulate about it, but I know there have been a couple other people who've mentioned Dick Beckhard. So those are founding thinkers who if I was teaching Intro to OD, I would expose people to those folks, and I'm sure others. Another one I added is Carol Pierce in New Dynamics, and she was the original author of these continuum models that I've been so involved with, Steve, for the last 30-some years right now, and some of which I'm creating on my own at this point. NTL is an organization co-founded by Kurt Lewin and Ken Benny, Bob Chin. These are all names that I haven't heard mentioned before in these sessions that I would have people pay attention to.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Who would you name as contemporary contributors to the field, current voices shaping the field's future, and what makes their contributions stand out?
The work on dialogic OD that Jervis Bush and Bob have been working on and publishing on for sure is having a huge impact in OD and wider. Another one is, what was his name? The guy, Ed Olson and his colleague, Glenda Yo-Yang. They've written, they wrote one book on facilitating organization change, which is lessons from complexity science for people who do our work, ODC consulting work. I think it's a very, very important contribution that they've made. Marshak, I mentioned Marshak already. From the Khalil Jameson Consulting Group, what Fred Miller and Judith Katz continue to publish on. They were among us, I think, in the second or third of these sessions in September, and they publish periodically. They always have powerful ways of thinking about how to affect organization change. So I would include them, and I would include my book. That I wrote with Rick Huntley and Carol Pierce on Journeys of Race, Color, and Culture, which has an organization chart at the back of the book that makes it clear how white supremacy was set up. White supremacy as a system was set up and what the developmental journeys are for white people as a group and people of color as a group, moving through and undoing that system of oppression and learning new ways of being together that are more equitable. So a little ad for me.
That's great, Rianna. For those that have to go, feel free to say bye, put a little note in the chat to something you took away from today, an appreciation, something you're going to do differently. Share that with us as you depart. And we're going to keep going because I want to get your voice into this, and we were a little delayed early, so let's just take a few minutes here to make sure we wrap up on these key questions. So you really answered kind of the third section of questions, which gets at theories, models, and frameworks a little bit as you talked about these folks, because there's always a person behind, a theory, model, or framework. But what would you, as you look at this list here, anything else you want to add in terms of important theories, models, and frameworks that you want to highlight?
Yes, when Richard Boyatzis was on with us 2 weeks ago, he talked about having been president, I think he said, of McBurr. I never knew he was, he had that role in that company. But I got involved with McBurr as a practitioner. I learned their model. It was based on David McClelland's theory of human motivation, which for some reason seems to have disappeared. I mean, you might tell me differently. I'm not on an OD teaching faculty right now, so I kind of don't know what's current, but I read tabs and I read Journal of Social Psychology and APA journals and that kind of thing. I never see anything that refers to David McClelland. I've kind of made up a story for myself about that. The theory actually, level one of the theory is pretty simple. It establishes three human motives: the need for affiliation, the need for power, in other words, to have influence, and the need for achievement. And where those sit in each of us, in our psyches and bodies, and how they drive our behavior and select our behavior and so forth. That's like level one. And then there's a lot more beyond that. Enormous amounts of research done on it, incredibly valid and valuable knowledge, I believe, but you don't hear it anymore. So I'm kind of wondering if it's been invalidated somehow, and I never heard about it.
No, I would say it's a part of the historical. It's part of the historical theories that tend to be mentioned when you get into motivation theories. It still gets mentioned and addressed, but I think there's a lot of richness to it that we sometimes gloss over because it is historically dated, so to speak.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I appreciate that perspective on it. And now I have forgotten the question.
No, David's got the next question.
So from your perspective, what are the essential competencies for practitioners? What are the essential competencies for scholars who are working in this field or want to advance the theoretical and empirical aspects of ODC?
So for the practitioner, I believe that at the top of the list would be the 5 key elements of emotional intelligence, emotional and social intelligence. So starting with awareness of self and then ability to self-regulate around the emotional experience. The ability to have empathy, to be socially sensitive, but not overwhelmed. That's part of the marginal aspect of our role, I believe. And it's all of those, I think all those aspects of emotional and social intelligences are critical and challenging, really challenging. And I personally think that aspect of our competence is a little more important than having knowledge of all the different aspects of our field. But from the book reading and the learning from videos and classes and our graduate programs and that kind of thing. Of course, having the skills to manage an intervention, to facilitation skills, incredibly important for a practitioner. I have a competency model that I use that I published on in the Practicing Social Change Quarterly that NTL puts out some years ago now, and it was on. It's like a competency is based on three things. One is your knowledge about whatever it is. The second one is the skills, your ability to practice, to behave, to act in terms of the knowledge in a way that makes it meaningful and accessible to people and helps them do whatever change they need to do. And then the third aspect is use of self. So all of those make a robust competency, and I think that's a useful framing.
Very good. Thank you. And how about on the
On the scholar side, the word that comes up for me is curiosity. Like, what are you as a practitioner? What are you interested in? What are you curious about? What doesn't make sense to you that you want to follow and try to make sense of it? And can you create a research question out of it? I have to say that in terms of the scholarship that's currently being done, I don't feel like I'm as current with that at all as someone who would be on the teaching faculty. So I don't feel like I can really speak to that, David, in a way that would be helpful to people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gotcha. All right. So what on your bookshelf, what are some of your favorite books on your bookshelf that if, you had to move and only take a few books with you, what books would you make sure you took with you? What articles would you want to take with you?
Well, there's a handful of compendiums of knowledge that I think I would want to take with me. And of course, that would include the first couple of editions of the Change Handbook. And then these wonderful tomes that I collected early in my own development from Bob Tannenbaum and colleagues, Chris Argyris and Ed Schein. I would want to take those. But then there's also ones that are like around personal development. And I'm thinking of, I don't want to turn around and look at my bookshelf because then I'm presenting the back of my head to people. Gosh, but I really want to. Shoot, it's not coming to mind.
It's okay.
Can I send them along later? I'll make a list for you.
You can look. It won't bother us if you turn around and look.
Okay, I'll look.
Yeah,
since I'm talking on my phone. Margaret Wheatley's books, Kate Cowie on Finding Merlin and the developmental process involved there. Blind Spot, that's kind of a current book. The recent book on caste by Isabel Wilkerson, I think is really important. Peter Block on flawless consulting. I talked about social intelligence. Leadership in the New Science, Meg Wheatley's book from some years ago now. And then for me, as you know, Steve, I specialize in helping people undo white supremacy in themselves and in their systems. So I have a lot of books about what it means to be white, what whiteness is about, and what my challenges are as a white person to undoing that kind of thing in myself. Or at least becoming more aware of how I manifest whiteness in my behavior. Like people of color and other white people actually will often experience me as kind of over intellectualizing things or not being able to, not having the capacity to make an emotional connection and so forth. So I need to at least be aware of that kind of thing. And the many books I have on my shelf about the experience of people of color in white supremacy have really helped me, at least at the, in the prefrontal cortex, to make sense of why things are as bad as they are. Also around misogyny and patriarchy and the impacts on women. So all of those things are around my personal development. Yeah.
Any associations or organizations you would like to highlight as important?
NTL Institute, which has a closed membership that opens every so often, every few years. Right now it's closed, but it's very helpful to one's development. you can go to NTL programs like the one Ken mentioned earlier, the Human Interaction Lab, and there's an ODC certificate program that is quite popular with people. The Organization Development Network, which is, I think is international. There may just be a US-based one and international OD. And there's also regional OD networks. And that, I think, is a great place to network and make connections, learn about OD and experience yourself as a practitioner. I personally belong to the American Psychological Association because I'm like an amateur armchair psychologist. I'm just interested in that stuff. There have been others over the years, but those are my current affiliations.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So, David, you want to close us out?
Yeah. So let's just to summarize and maybe end where we began with a little more depth. Do you think about the field, not just your personal aspirations? What is the mission of the field of OD? What does it contribute to the world when at its best?
I believe it's to ameliorate at a very high level, like the 30,000-foot level. I believe that its purpose is to ameliorate the effects of unnecessary hierarchy and systems of oppression on people, on human beings, by doing more power sharing and helping individuals to heal and recover from the effects of those oppressive systems that they may have been culturally subordinated in, and also to create organization structures that enable not just the self-actualization of individuals, but for people in collaboration to create amazing outcomes that are going to make the world a better place for everyone. The highest good of all concerned, including spiritual development.
Fantastic. So what are the outcomes when these aspirations are achieved? And what would you define as the dependent variables?
That we learn how to manage tension, the natural kinds of tension and conflicts that emerge in human systems, that we learn how to manage those in a way that doesn't result in killing one another, that we learn how to achieve our own highest aspirations without obliterating other people en masse or as individuals.
Wonderful.
You know, when Isabel Briggs Myers and Catherine Myers decided to create the Myers-Briggs type indicator, their hope, it was after World War I, and their hope was that it would help to prevent another world war.
Thank you for sharing that. I wasn't aware of.
Leveraging Jung's
Yeah.
theory of personality, of course, to do that. Yeah.
And what role can our field take to build that future?
Just keep on educating and creating experiences of belonging for more and more people, demystifying education, figuring out ways to make complex ideas more palatable, more accessible, meeting people where they are without shame or judgment, bringing them along in some way, not allowing them to kill us, but stopping ourselves from killing them because of their difference.
Thanks, Rianna.
Yeah,
Steve?
thanks, Rianna.
That's
What a
off
wonderful
the top
day
of the old
today.
head. I don't know if that's good or useful, but that's what was there, David. Thanks
Oh.
for the question. Sorry, Steve.
That's great.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
it's great. Thank you, Rianna. Appreciate you. A lot of fun to have you always around and connecting and talking and sharing. And more to come with this. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And thank you, Lisa, for all your good work and producing and directing today, and Teo, who helps really with all of that as well. And for all of you here, thank you. I wish you the best, and hope you have a really great rest of your day. and we'll be talking soon. So bye, everybody. Bye for now.
Take care.
Thanks, Steve.